You might know me. I'm Josh Kirby. You might know me best as the host of the Kirby on Sports podcast. I'm pleased to be joined by my good friend Dan Gloster. First and foremost, Dan, thanks for coming on. I know it's been a long, long time since we have spoken about high school sports. I feel like school sports during this time is a huge deal. And you haven't called a game in months on end. And you just got your first opportunity this year, I believe, to
Yeah.
call the Handley State Championship game that just wrapped up a couple hours ago.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, Handley coming up on the losing side of the state championship, but still a hard fought season in this COVID situation and everything. And you had the opportunity to call it for the NFHS network. So, Dan, welcome. I'm sure that was a thrill calling your first game and who knows how long.
It was. Yeah, it was the first game since March of last year, Josh, when I was at your alma mater, Sharando. Millbrook was playing Booker T. Washington High School in the state semifinals. Um, that was the last game that I did. There was no football. Haven't done any basketball, and then the AD at Handley, Reed Prosser, reached out and said, "We're hosting the game. Would you like to do it on that network with the video stream?" And I was like, "Sure, why not? Let's do it." So it was fun. It was different than radio because I was wanting to give more description, but I really didn't have to. You kind of got to limit yourself a little bit more when you're doing TV, which I'm not really used to. But hopefully it came over well. And again, unfortunately for Handley, they just couldn't quite get it done. It's their third state championship game since 2014, and just haven't been able to get it done in those three visits. But Smithfield team out of Newport News, give them credit because they were down 12 at one point, late second quarter, and they somehow finished the half strong. They cut the deficit to 7, and then it was just all Smithfield the rest of the way. So for a team that had to travel that far with only about, they probably had 10, 12 of their own fans in the stands, literally, because each player, Josh, had one ticket to give to a parent.
Wow.
You couldn't even bring both parents. You had to just choose one for them to be able to come. So,
Man.
but credit to Smithfield. They get their first state championship in 115 years. That's as long as the school's been open.
115
Yeah,
years.
that's how old the school is.
I,
Yeah.
I can't believe that. Like
Haley's 97 years old, and they haven't won one. So, but Smithfield even older than that. So,
that I mean, that's incredible. Hearing about that stat about how that school is. I mean, I was talking to my father while watching your broadcast, and it was like, wow, that is old. And he was like, I
mhm.
don't even think my school was that old. And what we were comparing stuff, but I mean, to get back on track, obviously Hanley started the game off strong, and I mean, was it just me, Dan, or were you seeing a lot of sort of sloppiness, a lot of turnovers, loose balls, and stuff like that?
Yeah, Hanley kind of started not being so tight with the basketball late first half, and then in the second half, and then Smithfield just started shooting the ball. I mean, Hanley made 1 3, and Smithfield probably made 6 or 7 easily. Um, so I mean, I think they outscored them 41-27 in the second half. That was and then the third period was the big one when
Oh yeah.
they was 21-8. I think that they outscored them. Yeah, because it was 27-20 at half, and then Smithfield led 41-35 at the end of 3. So yeah, they outscored them 21-8 in the third period. And that was pretty much the difference.
the judges in the fourth quarter alone had 6 turnovers. Obviously, with the loose balls and stuff, turnovers really played a factor in this game, in my opinion. And like you said, the third quarter was the turning point in this ball game, and you could see Smithfield just rolling the ball, trying to conserve as much clock as they could, and they came out to be the better team on top at the very end. I mean, unfortunately for Handley, it looked like they had a pretty good squad. They were undefeated. That was their first loss of the year, and you have this Smithfield team that came out after halftime. Probably a speech was said or something, and they came out and they had heart in the second half and won it.
Yep. Just a little too much depth, scoring depth. I mean, for Handley coming in, they had Dimitri Gardner averaging 25, Chaz Lattimore averaging 12, but nobody else in double figures. Smithfield had 4 guys, I believe, in double figures coming in, and they had 2 kids that ended up with 40 of their 61 points, and one of the kids scored 17 of those 20 in the second half. So just too much depth, and Handley just didn't get the points from the other guys that they needed. I mean, Dimitri finished with 24, but he only had, he had 14. He only had 10 in the second half. So when they needed other guys to score, they just couldn't get it. And unfortunately, Kamani Curry, playing his last game, he missed all of his shots. He didn't score, which is really got to be heartbreaking for him. But it just wasn't Handley's night. I mean, that's what you can say. And the turnovers, the coach told me yesterday when I interviewed him that was going to be the key. They needed to limit turnovers and they needed to rebound. And the turnovers just killed them, especially in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, of course, turnovers are never a good thing in a basketball game. You always want to limit them. So, going back to sort of like the atmosphere of the game, obviously, state championship in your home stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was pretty much empty. Like you said, 25, 30 fans, the max.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any sort of home court advantage there? Do you just think it was just a regular basketball game?
No, there really wasn't any kind of home court advantage at all, which that's just the way of the year with COVID and everything else. It's just the way it had to be. But again, you give Smithfield a little credit, or a lot of credit, because they traveled as far as they did. And the coach told me before the game, Josh, that they were supposed to have a shoot around. He mentioned Shenandoah, and then he mentioned they didn't. He said a couple other places, and nobody, for whatever reason, they just said you can't do it. I don't know whether they were. I don't know what the deal was. So they didn't even have a shoot around today.
Wow.
For the game, and maybe that was the reason for the little bit of a slow start for them. But in the end, they were the better team. They were more balanced, and they got it done.
So what was it like for you, Dan? After all this time with COVID, you didn't call a single football game. There wasn't a football season. Who knows if there will be a football season? And this was your first basketball game. So obviously with that, was there a lot of rustiness, or did you just go right back in and do what you do best?
Well, it's a little different than calling a game on the radio. Or the stream, the audio stream, for sure, because with video, you don't really have to describe quite as much. So I was trying to not be as detailed as I normally am. Hopefully, it was a good balance. I'd never worked with the guy that I work with, and he was. I thought he did. I thought we did pretty well, depending on that we'd never even met each other before. an hour and a half before the game. So, usually this is my cat. Sorry. Usually we can, if you got a guy that knows sports, which it seemed like Tim did, it's kind of starts to flow, and I felt like it did. I thought we did well.
Yeah. So, Dan, from your knowledge on the high school sports scene, do you know of any sort of news about football? Or I know basketball, there's supposed to be 1 month
Yeah.
out of like, I think it's March, 1 month where they play like 5, 6 games. I'm not really sure. What's your knowledge on the sports scene? Do you know anything more?
Well, Handley has a game. They start next Saturday. Handley does, playing football.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, they play Liberty a couple of times. They play Kettle Run. They play Fauquier. Um, Basically, the same schools they played out of the district in basketball, they're going to play in football.
Wow.
Um, for Sharando and Millbrook and James Wood, they will start playing late March or early April, and they will play. I think each team plays a total of 4 games. Um, they play each other a couple of times, I believe, and I believe that it's considered a club sport. That's how they're kind of classifying the seasons. Um, I think the spring sports and same thing with basketball. I think since it's they like those like the 3 county schools, they can't compete for a state title.
Yeah.
They simply just play games. Okay. Same with football. Um, for the county schools, I think Handley has a chance to play since they're going in a different season. They're playing the fall sports in the winter season, whereas the county schools are playing in the spring season. So from what I understand, Handley can still compete for a football title in the state, but I'm pretty sure that the other schools around here can't, meaning Sharando, Millbrook, and James Wood.
That
But
that that is
I do give them a lot of credit for still wanting to play.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, with this pandemic, I mean, yeah, I'm sure you've been following the basketball season for Hanley, like getting it done safely and successfully.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
you just hope for the best for the other schools that they can, you know, get their games in, and there's not any issues. I'm sure they're going to be taking all of the precautions that are necessary. And hopefully this is a one and done thing, Josh. I mean, I sure heck hope that next fall we're going to have high school football.
Yeah.
Next winter we'll have winter sports, and next spring, a year from this spring, we'll have the regular spring sports. I really hope that this is a one and done scenario.
Well, I hope it is too, for the sake of just hearing another good Lordy Wow call.
well, well, I'd love to be able to do that. We'll see. But and I think has a lot of importance to the kids that they be able to play.
Yeah,
Um, I'm
absolutely.
sure. I'm sure you read the papers when the kids in the county they staged some some pickets. I guess is what you would call it, for lack of a better word. They staged some demonstrations to where they really wanted to play, and
Hmm.
the county, the school board, just they felt the best route to go was to do what they did, and but I know the kids wanted to play really really bad, and that's just too bad. Um, so, but again, I hope we don't have to deal with this again.
So obviously, in this state championship game, I'm not sure if this rule was changed due to COVID, but there was no jump ball.
Right, there wasn't. It has to be, I'm not really. I'm I don't know why that is such a big thing that you would change, but and there was no handshakes either at the end of the game.
Yeah.
We didn't go to break, so there was no handshakes after the game either.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I obviously did you notice anything else that was different with like the COVID protocols while you were calling the game? Did you notice anything that was different from just a normal basketball game without a
well,
pandemic?
like I said, normally you got the seats, the player seats next to each other on the bench, and they had everybody like they had the stands pushed in, and then the each player's seat was a good 6 to 7 feet away from the other one. So that was weird, and that was totally different. Um, I don't think anything else. I mean, you could see the refs. The refs were all wearing masks. The coaches were wearing masks. Some of the players were, some weren't. Um,
It's
which was
hard to do that though for
which
a
is
player.
interesting. I I would find it really hard to do that. But you would have thought it would have either been nobody or everybody. I wouldn't. It was a little just not not concerning, but it was just a little odd that you had some that did and some that didn't.
Yeah.
I think
It,
I think Hanley's did. Um, most all of the Handley players were wearing masks. But yeah, I agree with you, man. It's hard enough. I mean, granted, I haven't played basketball in a long time, but you're huffing and puffing up the court. It'd be hard if you had to wear a mask. I mean, that's going to constrict your breathing.
so
So
what was the broadcast scenario like? Did you have to wear a mask while broadcasting?
I did not. Tim, my partner, he did.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. But you were like spaced 6 feet apart and stuff like that, right?
no,
Oh, really?
honestly, no.
Oh, I see.
Um,
No, I just didn't know how COVID protocols work for a broadcast like that at the high school scene. Like the NFL, they have the barrier in the middle and then
yeah,
the two
right.
callers, and they're not wearing masks, obviously. I mean, they're
Right.
setting precautions, but
Mhm.
it just challenging times.
Yeah, and I mean, the NFL is a much bigger outfit, if you will, than what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, I mean, that was it was a good setup. I mean, he was doing all the scoring, typing in the scores, and he kind of was doing everything from the production end. So it
That's awesome.
wasn't anything that I had to really worry about doing, which was nice.
That's awesome.
I was keeping the scoring totals. I wish I had been able to keep like shooting stats. Um, and I even, do you know Rob and Walt from the
Yep.
Star?
Yes, I
Well,
do.
they weren't in the press box. I don't know if they were told that they couldn't be or whatever, but they were in the stands. Um, so I thought was, you know, interesting. I mean, normally guys are up in the press box. I mean, so
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a reason or they just sat in the stands. I don't know, but when I see the paper, I'll get more of the story from how the game really from turnovers because those guys can keep those stats, whereas when we're doing just too much going on to be
Yeah.
able to keep all those stats other than scoring. So
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, Smithfield defeats Handley in the Class 4 state title game 61-54. Dan Gloster once again was on the call. Dan, I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me, my kind sir. Always a pleasure.
all right, man, appreciate it. And if whoever's watching, if you need something to be moved or you need pack boxes, go see Josh at the UPS store on Weems Lane. He'll
Thank
set
you.
you up. He helped me out, and he'll do it right for you.
My man, I appreciate that. Once again, Dan Gloster joining me. For Josh Kirby, I'm saying so long until next time. Thank you.